Brother Jeff is a missionary. He's a missionary's missionary. His membership is in Rio Blanco Missionary Baptist Church in Belize now. And he'll tell you more about that. And of course, he's been to Pakistan. He's pastored in Alaska, in Oregon, in Illinois, in Tennessee, in Indiana, Kentucky, California, pastor in California. He's been a lot of places, and there's been a lot more places doing missionary work. And so he's got the heart of a missionary. And Brother Jeff, come on. I want to give you all the time I can.
But I'm already full just hearing that announcement, and because my burden is so, I wish I just opened my heart and show you what God's been able to make me feel. And Brother Kent, you know him. He's been here. He's talked about the school and his burden. Him and I are oil and water. We are so opposite, but we work so good together. And God knows everything that you need. And I want to tell you a little thing about quail. Quail, if you don't know, are migratory birds. And in Africa, once a year they will fly over the Mediterranean Sea. It's in their DNA, and they fly all the way across and land, as fast as the little bird can go, and land on the shores on the other side. And the better ones used to go and just pick up quail, free food, But now there's even laws in place. You got to leave them alone. Well, there's an account in the Bible where the children of Israel were hungry, and they grumbled and they griped and they wanted meat. And what did God do? And I bring all this up to make a point to start where I'm going. God was able to make those quail. I mean, they're dead. By the time they reach the other side of flying across the Mediterranean, they have no energy, nothing left. They just flop on the beach for 2 days, and they're just, if something eats them, they're gone. And then they get stronger, and then they go to where they're going to go. But the Bible says an east wind blew all night long and blew those birds another 200 miles into the children of Israel, to the fact that there were so many quails that it was up to their knees. Now that's an impossibility, is it not? Those little birds shouldn't have been able to do that. But I want us to know and realize we serve a God of the impossible. Don't underestimate the God that's in your life that saved your soul. Because he's still on the throne, he's not changed, and he still wants to save the lost and dying in this world. Why, I don't know, but I'm glad that he sent us to this part of the world. It's a friendly place, Afghanistan, Iran, India, and China, surrounded by a lot. And it's actually more dangerous right now to go into India than it is to be in Pakistan, believe that or not. The Sikhs don't like the Muslims. Even the Muslims are getting persecuted in India, along with the Christians. And but it's a crazy part of the world. Of course, that's the kids. Now listen, you were born with an ability to change someone's life. Don't ever waste that. And this church has, through the years, has been blessed to reach out and touch a lot of lives. And I'm so thankful for you, for your efforts. This is a little church that Kent is pastor of. It's his sons and some different ones. They're not real huge, but they're doing big things for the Lord. They're actually put together the 501c3 corporation. It came through them. They are the only ones that can fire the board. I mean, people worry about, it doesn't have church authority. Well, it does. It's Covenant Church. That's my wife, Judy. That was my Pakistani beard for the first trip. The best I could do. It doesn't look like some of my brother. Where's he hiding, the long beard? Yes, I like his beard. These guys met us at the airport. This is Sharak on the side. This is the man that got a hold of Kent. Of all things, and I know you know the story, but just let me recount, because I want to just affirm to you that there's nothing impossible with God. I don't know what kind of giants you have in your life, but I know you all got them. We all have to slay them. We all have to bring them down. And just like David did, God can do it again. Don't ever forget that. Don't underestimate what God can do. Here's a man halfway across the world, doesn't know anything except being saved by the grace of God, been called to preach, and he reaches out through sermonaudio.com. Of all the thousands of preachers, he finds Kent. Oh, that was a coincidence. No, it wasn't a coincidence. That was a God thing. And I loved, Kent called me up when I was in Alaska, and I was helping the church in a revival, and he said, and he'd already talked to Shirag. He said, you want to go to Pakistan? I go, you want to what? I said, let me call you after revival. That's a lot to process. And so I did, but long story short, well, you know I went. But his burden, Kent told me, he said, well, we don't have money, we're not a big organization, we can't help your school, we can't help the orphans, we don't have it. Maybe you should look somewhere else. He said, no, you don't understand. My burden, and I love this answer, he said, my burden was God put on my heart to reach out to you and ask you to come teach and preach to us. Period. Now, I've done my burden. What you do with it is up to you. And that's the way he left it with Kent. I said, oh, I like that answer. Leadership of the Lord. He didn't go any farther than what the Lord told him to do. He knows the Lord. I know that. Middle is Nasser. He's a tailor. And on the end is Bubber. He's got a YouTube channel and some other things. And they're all preachers there who were teaching. That's the electrical grid in Pakistan. 15 million people, and that's a light pole. And there's everybody's meter is on that pole. It was just a weird thing. That's a guy delivering morning groceries. He'll come around to your place and he'll hawk the vegetables. Look pretty good, and the wares that he had. This is the first church. This is Brother Shirag's church. It took him 10 years to get that built, and I call it out of the widow's mite. Because these are very, very poor people. I've seen poverty in our country. It doesn't even imagine to what goes on in there. But it was a blessing to be there. Oh, we went. The children are kids all over the place. They love selfies. They love cameras. Beautiful children. This is the pastor's house we went to. This is the kitchen, and she cooked a whole meal: rice and chicken and vegetables right there, and the cow in the background. This is our driver. He is actually an Arab. He's a Muslim. He's a very, 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 very fine fella. We just had to be careful what we said around him. Our little van that we drove around in, as you can see, it was large. We were crammed in there, and then there's me. I did have a few bumps on my head when it was all said and done. It's just going down the street, and guys are coming out early in the morning, and they're bringing their wares out. So they just, there's not a lot of 7-Elevens. You just come down and they sell their stuff. An odd camel along the side of the road, which I thought was odd. They were always real respective. This is out to the Brickland areas, that's why this brick is up here. Christianity in Pakistan is 1%. It's the second largest Muslim nation in the world outside of Indonesia. 25 million people, and 12 million of them live in Lahore, which we were. This is actually out in the countryside in the Brickland area where they make bricks. Christians can't get jobs. They just have to take what no one wants to do. And one of them is to make these bricks, which you can look at. They make about 5 of those, and they get about 2 cents. I rounded up. That's what they get paid. They just keep them in just enough to be fed and just enough to be broke. And like the old farmers way back when, and they always were in debt. And that debt passes on to their sons. And so they start working and making brick to eat. Those boys are 10 years old, the children. And instead of education, so they're illiterate out there. And that's one of Shirag's goals outside of the main school, which we want it to survive and want it to go on, but maybe get some satellite schools. Who knows what God could do? I serve the God of the impossible, and he's the same God. He said, let there be light, and there was light. There's nothing that my God can't do. That's a tradition. We got roses everywhere we went. It was kind of felt funny. We got petals thrown at us. Oops, pushing the wrong button. Yes, I was. That is a street. Believe it or not, we went and met some other pastors, and we were going down. I guess it's kind of an alleyway. One of the preachers, I called him our CIA preacher. He had a leather jacket on. He always went before us, checked the doorways, hallways. They kept us pretty safe as much as they can. That's Sadiq there with the leather jacket on in the darker complexion. The guy in the blue suit, that was his home. He's also a preacher. We don't know him that well. He's not in the main group we deal with. Christians in Pakistan, no matter what flavor you are, if you believe in Jesus Christ, you're in that bunch. They know that. They don't even know what easyism salvation is, because we wanted to find that out. So they look at you like, what? What is that? They don't know the Romans road. They don't know, say this prayer and repeat after me. It's not easy to be a Christian in Pakistan. Let's face it, it's not. It wasn't even legal to be a Christian in Pakistan until 2016. And the prime minister they have now sees I don't know what you want to call it. I think it's blessings, but letting there be a religious liberty in his country would flourish a little bit more. He has some insight that I think God's using him. We always visited. We always had Bible study with these men. This is there in the Brooklyn area, and the kids, they just moved my heart because they're just, they don't have shoes, they don't have this, they don't have that. And none of those people ever asked me for anything. And one of the ladies took me aside and said, Pastor Jeff, she had to use an interpreter. And she says, I want to ask you of one thing. And I said, what's that? She said, we really could use a sewing machine. I go, oh. And I said, Nasser, can we get a sewing machine to these people? Yeah, how much is it? He said, it should be $40. I go, oh, please get them one. I said, I don't have time to get it for them now, but he said, okay, I'll get it. And they're big on film, so he took a picture of getting it, buying it, delivering it, and bringing it to them. And then he made a video of the ladies using it, because they make all their own clothes. They don't buy them. They don't go to Walmart. There is no Walmart. Kids all love to participate. Just the beautiful children. And this is again in the Brooklyn area. It's really a sad area. This little guy just came in from making brick, and he was my buddy. That's his sister on the right. She says, "Don't take my rice." These little guys, they don't have really clean running water. They don't have a lot of stuff. It's poorest of poor. But it gets worse than that. We went to, maybe I'll get to it. It's another church. There's a lot of church. They all isolate in a small area in Lahore. So if you walk out in the street, you're pretty much walking amongst a Christian area. There's one fellow I met, just a brave soul. I don't know if does anybody here know Phil Mayle? Has he ever been down in this part of the country? Do you know him? Okay, but Brother Phil, he's an oddball. He got a special gift of street preaching, and he'll go anywhere and he'll preach and he'll talk to complete strangers, and God's used him in different places. And I got home from Pakistan. Phil, I met your brother. He says, my brother? I don't have a brother. I said, yeah, you got one in Pakistan. He don't quite look like you. He's big. He rides a motorcycle up and down the street with a loudspeaker saying, there's no other name whereby men can be saved than Jesus Christ. And he's breaking the law, by the way, by doing that. Because why? Because there's a law, blasphemy law, that says if you badmouth the Quran or the religion, that you can be sent to jail. Well, I just did. I indirectly badmouthed their belief as far as what they believe, because I believe there is one name, Jesus Christ. But it was good to see him. They love the Lord. I wish our kids were this attentive. I was preaching right there, and their eyes were on me. We had an interpreter, and they listened very faintly or directly. They didn't miss a thing. We're having prayer there. Those guys are on there just because they're cute. That's the pastor's son there on the left. I was doing some teaching. This area is a gypsy camp. They live in a landfill. They make their tents and what have you and eat whatever they can find. I don't know if that was dinner or his friend. This little girl, she's on my computer at home. When we pulled up in the van, she knew what we had in the van. She knew we had food. Because everywhere we went, we took food to feed them, and especially there. And she looked down at the floor where we had the chicken and rice in styrofoam and looked up at me with those big brown eyes and said, I'm pretty much saying I'm hungry. And it was very, very emotional for me to see a child hungry. But we were there. It was hard to corral these kids. These kids are wild because they live wild. They don't have school. They don't have anything, education like that. They do, the brothers go out there at least 3 times a month to take food and to have services with them. We finally did get them corralled down. It was Kent's time to preach, and he was already choked up. And Kent is not like me. I wear my emotions out here. You'll know if I'm happy, I'll shout and I'll cry, whatever. Kent's a little more reserved and laid back, but he was pretty choked up that morning. And I could tell that he had something on his heart. And we finally got the kids to settle down. The people were all around. And he said, I want to tell you of a tragic story that has a glorious ending. And he began for the very first time to talk about grace. And when it was all said and done, there was tears in the eyes of those Afghani people, because they knew when it was all said and done where grace is today in glory. And that was very hard for him, but God led him to use that. And I think, brother, I bring that up for this, for this reason. Grace may not be with us, but her work is still going on. Halfway across the world, they know about a little girl that God took out of this world. Even the kids started looking. That's the Brickland area. That's the brick kiln in the back, that big stack. There's like 50,000 bricks buried in the ground, getting fired. It's a mud pit where they make the clay. I'll just go through this. I know my time is limited. These guys spend their lifetime just like that in 100-degree weather, and sometimes they end up crippled, and then they just put the sun there instead. And these kids are out doing their part. They're like 9 and 10. They're going to get the fuel, and that's cow manure on the wall drying out. They use that to cook with and what have you. That's looking down in the kiln itself. Our most important job as a parent is to teach your kids about Jesus. This is an impossible thing that God has done in Pakistan. Think about it. You think the quail were a big thing in the Bible? Well, there's a Christian school in a Muslim nation sponsored by a Muslim government saying it's okay to be there. If that's not God, I don't know what is. And they're learning about Jesus Christ, and they're taking that home to their children. My friends, I believe that the greatest way to reach a nation is through our kids. Look what Satan has done here in our own educational system. If you're a teacher, I'm sorry, but our educational system is really messed up. And they spend $17,000 on a child, and they can't even come out and read anymore, it seems like. And they want to teach them stupid things. Well, these kids are learning in this school that you're helping to support reading, writing, math, and sciences, and Jesus. And they can quote more scriptures than half of you here. Now, I don't know that for certain. I hope you can quote some scriptures. But they're pretty good at it. And the school is obviously a great way to reach this nation. This was the first location of the school. The same thing that happened to this school is happening now. They were in a rented building. We lost the building. They had to leave. Well, by leaving, we left a lot of kids behind because they don't have buses. They can't walk across town where they're at. And so they don't want to do that again. They want to purchase the building that they're in. They could, and they would remain the same because the school itself is from preschool to 5th grade. That's all they can handle. And they got 103 kids. It's packed. And you were able to get backpacks for all of those children. They're able to get fed once a day. They're able to have a school uniform they're able to have the backpacks and what have you. And to run the school, if we were able to buy the other location and go up to 8th grade, because after 8th grade, high school starts there. And then after that, we have some vocational stuff that they can get into, that our banker, he knows some Christian businessmen that have vocations and things. So there's an avenue for them if we can get them through that early part of their education. If we don't get the building and they don't get it going, then the 5th graders got nowhere to go. They're not going to go to a Muslim school, because if they go to a Muslim school, they'll be beat up, they'll be pushed off in a corner, and they won't learn a thing, and they'll be ridiculed every single day that they go out, and they're afraid to go. This little girl wanted to tell me about her stuff. She was pretty cute. I was really moved by that. This young lady was a teacher out there. They have a little satellite school. And I said, why do you dress like a Muslim? Can I ask you that? I'm pretty direct. And she says, I do that for protection. And I said, why? She said, I walk to work here through the country. She said, if I dressed anything but in a burqa, I'd be pulled aside. They would know who I was, that I was a Christian, and I would be molested until I gave up Jesus. And I'm not going to give up Jesus. She brought tears to my heart. I wish my faith could be that strong. And so she has to dress like that just for protection. This was at one of the churches. This was an evening service, and that's just me being a kid. This is a famous bazaar in Lahore. They took us there to eat fish. That's the market. You want a goat? That's our sewing machine that we were able to get for him. He documented it all. He's delivering it. They love pictures, giving it to the ladies. And this guy's a miracle by himself. And I know you know the story, but for those of you who might not know, on our first trip over was a trip. We're trying to find out, what do you want, God? What do you want with us? What are we going to do? Show us. And so one by one, just how we got there was amazing. Meeting the brethren was amazing. Seeing the school was amazing. And then we started talking about the school. Kent was a principal at a Christian school. Kent has written Christian material, doctrines for school. So God put that part of the puzzle together. And then here we have this man we meet. Probably the only Christian, he's a Catholic, but he's the only Christian banker in Lahore. He's a vice president. He's risen up. He's very well off compared to everybody else. But he's still marginalized. He will tell you that. They still, even though he has a lot more money than most, they'll put him. Muslims will shun him as well. But he got his education in the United States, in a small college in Missouri. So it happens it's the same college that Kent went to at the same time. And when I heard that, he said, I went to school, you probably don't know where it is, Southwest State, Missouri. And Kent goes, go Bears. And I know the school, and then I know it's small because that's where my son got his degree in teaching. And I said, God must have had a sense of humor. You guys passed on that campus because I know it's small. I've been there. And every time you pass, God says, yeah, you guys are going to meet in 30 years in a faraway land. And I'm going to put you together and do something. This guy was essential to our plans. He's an honest, he's got a good testimony. And believe it or not, people are saved outside of Missionary Baptist churches. Oh, I know that's live, but I don't care. It's true. It's true. God's not in a box. I believe us. I believe what we teach. I believe where I am, or I wouldn't be here. But this individual, everything about it, our MOU, which is the way we get money over to Pakistan, should have taken 2 or 3 years. He got it done in 6 months with the help of God, I know. And so the charter, we can get them money, we can support them. Our long-term goal, the short-term goal right now is to buy that other building. $60,000 to buy the one they're in, and we can't expand. And the 5th graders go without the rest of their education. Or think a little bit bigger out and go 3 doors down, and there's a building that can take up to another 100 students. And that will take us into 8th grade, and so we'd have preschool to 8th grade. the cost to run that whole school and all those kids, give them what they need and the teachers' salaries and the security guard that they have, and everything is $2,400 a month. It's not a whole lot compared to how we spend money on education in the United States. And they actually are learning something. It's very obvious. This man was a blessing from God. I've been in his home the last time we were there, ate dinner with him, met his wife, who's also a banker. That's just the banker's guard. I liked his beard. He also had a big shotgun, and I like guys with guns. You might wonder why this ostrich is there. Everywhere you go, whether you meet a Muslim or whether you meet a Christian, they're very personable. They want to have tea with you. I drank so much tea I could float a battleship. I didn't have coffee for 12 days, and so hence it better be strong coffee. I left this one on here, and I don't know how much time I got. Oh, I'm doing good. I'm buzzing through. This guy was over every morning. The Muslim call to worship started around 3:30 in the morning over the loudspeakers in town. Will wake you up. Shortly after that, we'd be up and start our day, and these guys would come over, and we'd have Bible study every morning. That was on the first trip. That's his son and grandchildren who lost his job, and he couldn't find another one. He had to move in with mom and dad. He would push a broom. He would do anything. He tried to help his children. Grandpa took him in. And before we left, he said, "I got a testimony. I want to tell you and share with you. I think it's in my heart." And I go, "Okay, I've heard your salvation. It's good. You have a good testimony." He said, "No, it's something else. Come by before you go home." This was the last day. Kent was a little nervous about missing the plane. Wanted to get back to the United States, and I echoed that opinion. We left a couple days early. We found out what we wanted. God put the icing on the cake, like, "You boys are supposed to do this, and I'll take care of you, and I'll open up ways, and I'll bring people into your lives that will make it happen." God's people. That's you. That's other people that are making this happen. You may never have to leave the country, but every one of you people are missionaries. When God saved your soul, what was the first impression in your heart? Mine was my mother, my dad, my sister, my brother. I wanted them to be saved. And that should be our goal. That should push us. And we can reach clear across the nation. Grace from heavens reaching across the country and touching people's lives with her life and her story. But his was a little different. 2 years ago, they had captured him, the imam, which is like the preacher at their mosque. They drug him out in the street and they beat him. I mean, I'm not talking about like a brother beating. I'm talking about beating with an inch of your life. And just because he was a Christian, because he believed in God, and because he believed in Jesus Christ being the only way to be saved by God's grace. I said, "That's awful. Tell me more. Tell me what happened." He said, "They drugged me to the mosque." He'd never seen this one. He didn't know where he was. Threw him in a room and left him there bleeding on the floor for a long time. And then they drug him out in front of the imam and said, "This is what we're going to do for you. We're going to give you an opportunity and give you a chance. We're going to send you to Saudi Arabia. We're going to get you training. We're going to get you money. And then you come back here and start your own business. And we're going to get you a wife." He says, "I have a wife." She said, "No, you don't. You got a wife that doesn't believe in Muhammad. That's not a wife." And he said, "What's my alternative?" "The alternative is we're going to kill you." And the next words were out of his mouth were this: "Then you're going to kill me." He wouldn't give up Jesus. The easiest thing for a Christian in that country to do is say, "I believe in Muhammad." I have not met one that would do it. Their faith God gives them is so strong. It's amazing. And then they threw him back in the room after beating him some more. And they threw him out on the street late. He didn't know what time it was. He had to find his way home. And they doctored him up. He said, "I don't know why I'm alive." And I said, "I know why you're alive. I know exactly why you're alive." God wanted me to hear this and be moved by it, because I'm still moved by this man and his stories. You know what this shows me? God shut the lions' mouths again. God brought our Hebrew children through the fiery furnace. God brought the giant down, my friend, with a sling and a stone by a little shepherd boy. God does the impossible things. Don't ever get discouraged, which sometimes the work does. I don't know how much more discouraging that could be. But he held on to his faith. He's alive today, and that's only by the grace of God. It was totally out of his control. And that was a special one. Just a slide. We have a grain of a mustard seed, and I'm not afraid to use it. You all do if you've been saved with the grace of God. What's the Bible said? We can move things. We can move mountains. We can make the impossible happen. But our goal right now is, like I said, and which you have just shared in that, or will share in that, helping us get that done. We want to expand to the 8th grade so that those kids graduating from 5th grade can go on in to middle school and then be able to go on to high school. And to do that, we need the building that's just down the road. We don't have to leave the community, so we won't lose any of the children. And it was $60,000 versus $80,000, and that $80,000 include the renovations that the school is going to need. And then we'll be able to have 205 children. We will put on one more teacher. The community, they do help. They take up an offering that comes to about $100 a month, U.S., which is actually a salary of a teacher. 35,000 rupees is their salary. And that's not low and that's not high. It's somewhere, in the middle. So our money goes a long way. And so they will continue to do that. Right now they pay the rent to the building that they're in. But they're invested. And listen, when they take up $100 in a slum area, they're digging deep. You guys could pull out $100, most of you, and not blink an eye. And I don't say that shamefully. I'm glad that that's happened. They can't. It's just a poverty place in the world. That will still go on. The whole time we've been there, like I said, it's amazing that some third world countries I've been in, they're a little biggish, thinking, a white guy, he's got it. Can you give us this? No. These guys never ask for a thing. They're just very thankful that we can help them. I really think, I said, I don't know how we're going to do it, Kent, but we got a God that we serve that knows all things. I brought some pictures of the last trip. The teachers made these up. You get a chance later on, you can look at them. That's fine. Look at the brick. Made some QR codes. This actually, if you scan that, will take you right to our webpage. And if you haven't been there, go there, sign up for our newsletter, and you will be. We will put a quarterly letter on there that will give you all the new information. That's the easiest way for you to stay abreast of what's going on. And it sounds like we're partners to a certain degree, and I love you for that, and I appreciate being here this morning. And if I got a few minutes, you got a question, I'll take it.
Can you talk about some of the teaching that you were doing with the preachers in this last trip?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I like it. We focused on instead of going to all the different churches and being the oddballs, the white guys from America going, because we don't have time to change the churches. We need to focus on the brethren. And that's what Kent and I decided to do, began to teach them. They are in Zoom lessons, 18 Articles of Faith. But we took the opportunity to be there and took the last 2 days just to teach. And it was like we started with justification. Can you lose your salvation? And there's a lot of Pentecostal influence. Pentecostals believe that they do. I disagree with them. I don't think you can lose an everlasting salvation that God gives and God holds. But that's here or there. And sometimes you got to be careful talking to them. They say yes a lot, and you wonder, did you understand what I said? Or are you just saying yes because that's what you do? You don't understand. So we're very slow and very, very in their face. And I said, well, let's look at that doctrine. Can you lose your salvation? And Kent and I began to teach a little bit on it. It was like you could see in his face, like, oh, that makes sense. And then it really made sense. I got a picture on my phone I'll show you later, maybe this afternoon. And when it went off, he was like this. I thought he was going to shout. I don't know if there were shouters. I've never heard anybody shout over there except me. And he had raised his hand up. It's like, he got it. It made sense. And then for the next 20 minutes, we didn't teach. We were waiting on everybody else to be there. He was digging through his Bible and said, they're very well versed in their Bible. And he said, here, how about this verse? For God so loved his son, he gave his only begotten son, for everlasting. Does that work? I said, yeah, it does. I said, and then he'd dig out a different verse. And it was very, we really got through sanctification, justification when you're justified, and the trip of sanctification. And it was just very rewarding to me. Through the years, I've probably been afraid to teach. I just let smarter men like your pastor and Kent do that if I could get out of it. But this is just so rewarding to share our doctrine with someone, and then they figured out. And once that happens, once these six men get rooted and grounded, before we left, they were already calling themselves Missionary Baptists. That's the first time they had ever done it. I like this doctrine. And I said, well, it kind of makes sense. And it's our goal probably next time we go. I would, and I think Kent would too, at least a couple times a year to be able to go back and get our boots on the ground and deal with them face to face. But once we get these men rooted and grounded, they will go back to those churches, and they will teach that doctrine in a nation. In the schools, those kids take this home. We do have a few Muslim students, and they learn about Jesus, and it doesn't seem to cause any problems. There's a window open right now. I don't know how long it will be before it might close, because it might. But, I'm just trusting the Lord that what work that we can get done. These kids can learn about God, and they can come to a point in their life when they reach a time of accountability, and they have the background, and they have Bible knowledge, and they can seek the Lord and be saved before it's everlasting too late. So our teaching is a big thing for us to get these guys where they need to be in the Bible, that one day we could ordain them and they'd be part of us. Because they're already talking about church. And I go, that's way down the road, brother. Let's get about security of the believer and some of the other things in your mind and your heart. So, someone else? All right. I'm done if you're done. That was the Cliff Notes.
I appreciate all Brother Jeff shared. There's some material here. You're welcome to come up and look at it, the scrapbook, and then the QR code and things of that nature, and the brick will be all laid out here. You can look at between Sunday school and worship service. I want to say we love our teachers and our principal here at this church. Nothing was said against them. You face a lot of challenges in what you're required to do here. You understand that, but we're thankful for what God's doing there in Pakistan and our opportunity to be part of that. And so, if there's nothing else, we'll take a 15-minute break and we'll come back at 10:45 for worship service. You can talk to Brother Jeff about any work that you want to. Brother Tom Alonde is staying at his house right now, so he knows all about Kenya too. So just have at it.